Tom Shadyac needs some introduction, which of course is why I'll introduce him. Tom is you can go on IMDb, check all those movies that he's done, but when I think about Tom, I think about really three things. One, his deep love, support, and abiding affection for mountain film, which we are hugely grateful for. Two, his film that he debuted here, he premiered here 2 years ago, I Am. I think a few of you may have seen it. And thirdly, what he did to help preserve the Valley Floor here in Telluride, Colorado. If you're from out of town, you might not know the full story, but ask a local, and if you got an hour or two, they'll tell you. So I'm thrilled to have Tom. He's going to run with it. I don't know what the hell is going to happen, so I'm not going to talk anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Shadyac.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. David Holbrook. David Holbrook. David, thank you. Thank you for the exercise of my calf muscles hugging you. I really do want to thank David because this came out of the blue. And David and I had a conversation. He doesn't know truly what we're going to do today, and we're going to discover what we're going to do as we go along. But he had enough faith and trust to give us a time slot because I think so much of mountain film. I want to do all my firsts here. So my first documentary I want here. And my team, Nick and Dagan and Harold, we worked really hard to get our first book here. So that's why we wanted to do it. I am sure when I have my first kid, I'm going to want him born at this festival. So I'm going to have to time procreation 9 months before mountain film to have that happen. Although I've learned that maybe with the population crisis, I've learned two things now. No fracking and fucking. No more fracking and fucking. Right? We've kind of learned that. Are you having an amazing time at this festival? Like this festival is kind of how and why I wrote this, because I feel like things work well at this festival. We come here for a week or 5 or 4 days, and it works well, and we thrive, and we get woken up, and we experience sadness, but we experience community and joy, and it works well, right? And then you leave, and then it doesn't quite work as well. Why? And that's why I wrote this book. One of the impetuses is I believe life has an operating manual. And that sounds kind of like an insane idea, right? Life having an operating manual, but so many things in our life have instructions. Is it so arrogant and audacious to believe that life has one as well? So what I want to do this morning is talk to you about this, and we're giving them away for free. Nothing like free shit. Right? Right? Free stuff. So, and this, by the way, for all of you environmentalists, is made from recycled paper. Harold literally tells me if you plant this book, a tree will sprout. So that's how clean and green this is. Now, for some reason, I don't feel like standing up here. If I come down here, that feels a little better to me. And David wanted me to invite special guests who I would meet at the festival. And in a way, you're all the special guests. So I want all of you to be involved in the conversation. I'm going to read a little bit of this. You're going to get it for free afterwards. My students, all my students who come here with me, stand up for 1 second. All of you. All right, good. Beautiful. No, stay standing for 1 second. Stay standing. Look at them. And you guys, I don't know if you know this, but you're giving the books out for free. And this has to be done very efficiently because David's got another program coming in here. So get a box of books. We have 2 different covers. Pick whichever one you want and give them out. Okay? All right. These are the people you get them from. Another hand for these freaks. All right. All right, so look, I'm going to start. I'm going to read a little bit of this. Now I'm going to open it up to conversation because there are other guests here that I think are living the principles of this book that I hope I have articulated here, and is why their lives and their art is working well. So let me start here on chapter 1. And I know David's freaking out. Oh my God, we're reading at Mountain Film. I'll make it brief. I will make it brief. Trust me, I'm an ex-comic. I can read an audience. All right. So this is the introductory essay. I'm a storyteller, a film director of some 25 years, so let me begin with a story. In June of 1998, after wrapping Liar, Liar, Jim Carrey, myself, and a friend decided to head to Alaska to breathe some clean air, revel in nature's beauty, and talk about life, love, and the meaning of it all. A few days into our adventure, we were flying high over the Shadyac Mountains when our bush pilot received radio instructions that he needed to deliver gasoline to some 20 hikers stranded on a nearby glacier. That is when the idea hit me. I leaned forward. Hey, Jim, why don't you make the delivery? Yeah, you know where this is going. In a split second, Jim realized the hilarious potential of this scenario. You see, where we were was beyond remote. Our lodge, for example, was 200 miles from a paved road. You're lucky to see anyone, nonetheless, Ace Ventura delivering your gasoline. But that's what was about to happen, and we were giddy with anticipation. So it wasn't long before we landed some 75 yards from the hikers. Jim got out and, with gas can in hand, walked toward the unsuspecting group. He then held the red can high, and in Ace Ventura's voice announced, "Hi, I'm Jim Carrey. I heard you needed some gas." Now, I will never forget those 20 mouths opening wide in utter disbelief. Jim set the can down, and then he added, "Tom Cruise will be by later with some trail mix." So with dramatic flair, he spun on his heels, he headed back to the plane, and with that, we were off. We were howling at those flabbergasted faces, all frozen with that same expression that said, Jim Carrey was the last person anyone expected to deliver them gasoline on a glacier in the Alaskan wilderness. Well, as I write this, I feel a bit like Jim, and you, perhaps, are the unsuspecting hikers. I am the last person you might expect to deliver a message about a world that has gone wrong. I am, after all, in the eyes of that world, just a comedy director, making me an unlikely source for the content of this book. So unlikely, it took over a decade and a near-death experience to give me the courage to share my story, first in the documentary I Am, and now here. So, that is the start of this book. And I think it is an example that I share with all of you, because I think you're all kind of that unlikely messenger. All of you at one point in your life have had to stand up to mom or dad and say, hey, to my students, I don't think I want to walk in the paradigm. I want to go create something different. The invisible children guys who are here, where are you, Jed and Ben? Are you guys here yet? Okay, yeah. They have had to walk out of the paradigm and say, hey, I want to serve some brothers and sisters over in Uganda. And I think all of us, in some ways, are very unlikely messengers. And it took me to face my own death to have the courage to make I Am and even to write this book. So we're going to have a conversation about that. I want to read you two other things. Are you game? Is it okay? Okay. All right. All right. So this book is called Life's Operating Manual, with the fear and truth dialogues. Chechu, how far along are you in this book? Are you reading it? Chechu is the first guy I gave a book to in the entire world. Stand up, Steve Chechu. Because you never know about an action or a kindness, the effect it will have. Steve does not know about the effect that his kindness had toward me. And I know Steve is searching in his life. He's opening up to new ideas. But without the kindness of this man, I may not be here today. This man introduced me to this valley in an action to me that was unexpected. I was off somewhere else. I was flying privately at the time. Okay, forgive me. I'll tell you a very quick story about that. I went to see a ranch. I was looking at ranch properties at the time, actually, to do something communal. And they told me about this ranch over, where was it, Steve? It was over in Durango. So I fly into Durango, and they tell me about this ranch. Before I come, I said, well, can I see the ranch? They say, well, you see the movie City Slickers. Go take a look at the movie City Slickers, the ranch. Have you seen City Slickers, anybody? The ranch is in City Slickers. So I look at City Slickers. Awesome, beautiful, 10, 12,000 foot mountain peaks in the background. I get to this ranch, and there are no mountain peaks in Durango. And I'm like, where are the mountains? And the real estate agent goes, oh, that was an effect shot in the movie. So again, I took that private plane, which I no longer take, and I met Steve Chechu. So Steve, thank you for your kindness. All right. So it's called the Fear and Truth Dialogues, and I'm going to read you the essay about that, and you'll understand why. Because there is a dialogue inside of this book. So this essay is called Two Wolves Inside Us. Today's action movies, from Star Wars to Transformers, owe a great deal to our ancient ancestors who passed down stories of the ongoing battle between light and darkness, good and evil, angels and demons. One of my favorite is a popular Native American myth some of you may have heard about two wolves that live inside of each of us. Two wolves engaged in a fierce battle for control of our lives. One wolf, the fearful wolf, walks in anger, ego, envy, greed, resentment, and lies. The other wolf, the truthful wolf, lives in appreciation, kindness, love, joy, compassion, and empathy. For far too long, I have listened to my fearful wolf holler its bad advice. You have to fit in. Don't rock the boat. Do as you're told. But thankfully, over time, the wolf of my truth has stood up to his illusory twin, silencing this dark shadow with simple words of wisdom. Seek the truth. Follow your heart. Let go. Is it any surprise then that much of this book came to me as a conversation between these two internal warring voices, voices I simply call fear and truth? So one way to think about these dialogues in the book is this. They are a window into my process over the past 15 years, fears and doubts that arose in me as I changed my life, as well as questions and hesitations I faced. Understand this is not an exercise in good angel, bad angel. Fear is not bad, nor truth good. Fear simply is. And as you will see as you read, it has its place and purpose. Furthermore, the voice of fear and truth is not meant to represent everyone's fear. It is the fear that existed and exists in me. The hope here is that you will find it relatable and recognizable. And truth is simply how God, source, life, or whatever word you choose to use, is working through me. I make no claim to have a corner on the subject of truth, to know the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So now, let me take you to the first dialogue in the book. So fear speaks up after I write this essay and says, so you're writing a book. Ha, you and everybody else. And truth says, I am not concerned with everyone else, fear. That is your territory. And fear says, yes, but you have no qualifications. You're just a comedy director. And truth says, a comedy director is not who I am. Fear says, okay, fine, you write and you teach as well. Truth says, yes, these are things I do, but they are not who I am. Fear says, okay, then who are you? Truth says, this is the subject of this book. The question we all must answer. Who are you? Fear, and you have something new to say on the topic? Truth, yes, the essence is not new. It's been said before for billions of years. Fear says, billions of years? Man just learned to speak 100,000 years ago. See, you are already showing your ignorance. And truth says, is speech limited to man? Do the stars not speak? Does the sun not praise? And fear says, yeah, but they don't speak like we speak. And truth says, perhaps better. That's what the mystic Thomas Merton believed. Fear says, the monk, the Trappist, he lived in silence. What does he know about speech? And truth says, he heard God talk in the trees. Fear says, yes, then he was out of his mind. And truth says, precisely, and in his heart. So fear says, you're missing the point. What right does the director of Ace Ventura have to tell people how to live? And truth says, I have no right. I wish to tell no one how to live. I simply share what I know. Fear says, but your hope is to change people. Admit it. Truth says, my hope is to provide a perspective. The results are not up to me. Fear says, good, because you people will not change. Even your religions say that all of you people are fallen. And truth says, people are not fallen. They have simply forgotten. Fear says, forgotten what? Who they are. That again, who they are. Is there no other question to ask? Fine, write your book. I will not remain silent, you know. I will speak my mind. And truth says, you will speak from the mind, certainly. And fear says, what's wrong with that? Our minds are what make us different. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. And truth says, I say, I am, therefore I think. Fear, you confuse me. What is it you want to accomplish here? Truth, nothing. It is already accomplished. Fear, now you sound like a Christian touting the saving grace of Jesus. And truth says this is not about Christianity or any religion for that matter. It's about answering the question. Fear, yes, I know. Who are you? Yes, who are you? Shall we find out? So this book is about who are... Thank you. So this book is about who are you. Because if you know who you are, you will know how life works. And if you know how life works, you will know who you are. And Desmond Tutu said something to me very, very simply and profoundly when I interviewed him for I Am. I said, Desmond, what is wrong with this world? What is going on? And he said, Tom, God gave us instructions on the box of this thing we call human being. And we are not operating according to the instructions on the box. So I, like Desmond, like Emerson, like Gandhi, like Jesus, I have this crazy belief that there are instructions on the box, and we're not following them. And this is the conversation that I've wanted to have for years at Mountain Film. Because at Mountain Film, I see that we have a population problem. I see that we're objectifying women. I see that slaves are around 5,000 years ago. They came about. And I want to know why. Why do all these things exist? And I believe there's a very incredibly simple answer. It doesn't even need a manual. It could exist in a paragraph. So that's the conversation I've wanted to have for years. When we were up at Mountain Film at the symposium, we talked about population and the problems that come out of it and how... Oh, hair problem. Let me see if I can get this right. Is that good? No, it's hanging. Come here, help me. All things are connected. We all need to help each other. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, on hair and makeup. So, you know, and we look at things mechanistically. So up there, we're looking at things mechanistically. How can we put this finger in the dike over here to stop population, to stop the objectification of women, and stop slavery? And I think we need a new frickin' dike, right? We keep stopping these problems mechanistically, but there is a mindset underneath that we need to understand and embrace. We're outside of the mindset of how things work. So what this book talks about is an operating manual. So Jed, where are you guys? Up there. Do you remember the talk we had at Invisible Children? I write about it in the book. Do you remember that? Where was that? That talk, was it in San Diego where all the kids came? What's that?
University of San Diego.
And what were you doing with those kids?
We brought about 800 kids from most of the U.S. but all over the world together to kind of talk about global citizenship and the new paradigm of empathy.
Right, and the new paradigm. And so I started my talk, I called it Life's Operating Manual, if you remember that day. And I showed a picture on the big screen of someone pouring coffee on their keyboard. And I said, the kids started laughing. And I said, would any of you turn on your computer this way? And of course the kids said no. And I said, why would you not turn your computer on this way? And they said, because you would fry the thing. That's not how your computer works, right? And I said, now how do you know how your computer works? And they said, well, you just know. I said, no. We didn't just know how a computer works. Somebody had to understand something and get that instruction from somewhere. Where did they get it? And they said, well, computer comes with an operating manual, right? Computer operating manual tells you how that computer works well. Then I showed a picture of the Earth, this big, beautiful green ball floating in space. And I said, could you imagine that may have an operating manual as well? And if we could understand what's inside the instructions in that operating manual, of which we are all a part, would we not know what makes that work well? So where would we get such a manual? So where do you get the manual for your computer? How do you get that manual? You look at the computer. Certain temperatures make your computer work well. If you keep it cool, if you plug it into the right outlet, etc. So what do we look at? What do we look at and identify that makes life work well? We look at life. And you understand life is all around us. We've had 4 billion years of nature getting this thing called life right. And if we look at it, of which we are a part, we can discern what makes life work well. Is Dan here? Dan with a happiness study? He took off. Dan is a classic example. You guys see Blue Zones? Did any of you get a chance to see Blue Zones? Blue Zones, yes, is a classic example of the operating manual. All happiness is a look at how things work well. So Dan identifies these principles that are called community. That makes people live long when you have a lot of friendships and community and relationships. He looks at people that don't stress so much over the accumulation of things. They focus on creativity, on play, on flow, as Rocco, Adrian Bellick's brother, did that movie Happy last year. Did y'all see Happy? Yeah. So what Dan is identifying is the elements that we read in life's operating manual. This is how life works well. And we're outside of that manual in many, many ways. So, I'm going to open it up. Is Lucy Walker here? Lucy, would you stand up for 1 second? Could somebody run a microphone over to Lucy? Say hello, Lucy.
Hello, Lucy.
Hello, Lucy. I just met Lucy, although I've seen her films. Did anybody see Wasteland, for one? And this year, the Tsunami and the Cherry Blossom. Incredible films, but Lucy, what I see in your work is that you understand how life works. And here's what I see in your work. Lucy understands polarity. We had a conversation on the lift. Lucy is always compelled to these opposites. This idea that from garbage, wasteland, comes beauty and life and art. And in the Tsunami and the Cherry Blossom, this idea that from death and destruction comes life and resurrection. And this is something that we as a society have yet to embrace, this polarity. We think that we can just get and accumulate and get, and there's no cost. And there is a cost for every gain. And you understand that. And life exists in balance. My favorite essay is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he talks about this law of life, compensation, this gain, and you understand it so well. Could you speak about it for 1-2 minutes? Is this...
I don't know. I want to listen to him. How about you? I am so excited to be here, and I do feel like we need this operating manual, and you're so on it. And I do feel I'm so honored to hear you say that, because I do feel with my films, my big question is how to live. And I grew up as a kid thinking, wait a second, all these grown-ups, haven't they figured it out yet? What are they doing if they're not figuring it out? And and my films are certainly my question of how to live is exactly right, and explored through these polarities. I think you're exactly right. And And I'm working on a film about snowboarding and brain injury, which is another set of polarities right now. And maybe I'll even be back here next year. That's my big goal.
Yes, we want you. Chris Jordan, I don't think is here. Chris Jordan is a big influence on me. How many of you know who he is? Okay. Chris Jordan understands something that will have the entire society, when they read this book, calling me insane, Democrat and Republican alike. And what Chris Jordan understands is he gives his art away for free. Chris Jordan has been giving his art away for free since I've known him, which is about 5 years now. Giving it away for free online. I believe it's the way nature works. I think Chris Jordan is inside of the operating manual. So how does nature work? Well, we're all alive because of the sun, right? None of us can exist because of the sun, right? What is the economy of the sun? The sun is freely given to whatever it needs for its processes, and it freely gives. Everything we see around us is given to and freely gives. And we've built an economy, even we artists, myself, where we say, I will only give if you give me a certain amount. Right? I am a very valuable artist. My movies make money. Pay me more. And then we can do this thing, well, you can then give it all away, Tom, but why be greedy now to be generous later? Why exist outside of nature's operating manual? So I wish Chris was here because we had this conversation, Lucy and I, about a new film coming out, Chasing Ice. Did you see Chasing Ice, that brilliant film? Yes. And we were encouraging them, and Chris as well, to give the film away. Jed, are you still here? You're still my hero, you and Ben. You guys have done this for years. You've given your films away, and 100 million people came to you, and I don't think it's an accident. Because you created an energy that is, I believe, how things work. Were you aware of that? How did you come to the idea of giving? When I first asked you for your movie, you sent me like 10 copies. That's out of the economic paradigm. How did you come to that idea?
Well, I think it came more out of the urgency of that we didn't really see it as a documentary or a piece of art. We saw it as an urgent message that had to be conveyed, and the message in its conveyance was the payment, because it was like the motivating factor of our lives. And so it didn't matter. We just needed people to buy t-shirts or something so we could keep making more movies. But the movies themselves were meant to be seen, not owned.
Mm-hmm. And look at what's happened. I believe that this is the cancer of our time. The mindset on which we've built our civilization. The mindset is not working. And the mindset is, I am a me. I have no connection to you. I take whatever I can, and then I can be generous with that. That is a broken, cancerous mindset. I'm about to travel to New York to speak to the UN. And inside of the UN is going to be 500 of our business leaders who are giving money to the world, from the Bill Gates Foundation, God bless them, to even Koch's Foundation and others. But I have a very different perspective on this, and they're allowing me to speak radically because I think it's time we hear a different idea. And I'm going to go there and say, imagine that we're all in this room cancerous cells. All of us are cancerous cells. And we're talking about this body, that thing we call Earth. And let's imagine it as a body, and we see a problem in the foot. And the foot's not getting enough blood. So one of the cancerous cells says to the other one, hey, go down there and rush to the foot and help it get more blood. Put that finger in that dike. And another cancerous cell says to the other cancerous cell, hey, the heart and the lungs are not very well. Can you guys create a program to get the heart and the lungs working well? Yeah, sure. We'll put a lot of money and create a program. And the conversation that's not happening is the cancerous cells are never looking at each other and going, oh, wait a second, we're cancer. So we keep running around as cancerous cells going, how do we stop this? How do we stop that? Can you guys stop this? And we don't realize that all these things came out of a mindset. They are outgrowths of a mindset that is cancerous and outside of how things work. So here's the good news. The way things work when you embrace it, Dan knows this, the blue zones, you live longer, you're happier, your life has more meaning and purpose. When you get out of how things don't work, you start like your computer working well. Jed, you said one thing that I take exception to you said it's human nature that when we get older, adults kind of get a little more cynical because they've seen things not work. That's the current story that has to die off. I think as you get older, you somehow get younger because you start to see how life works and you start to move into it in your spirit and your behavior, how life works. I know I'm younger than all my freaking students. I kick their ass up every hill, right? I feel ancient and eternally youthful because of this idea that has animated me. So, we don't have a lot of time. You're all going to get free books. Did I mention that? Okay. All right. I want to open it up now to some conversation, to questions you may have. And I'm also going to invite my students, if you want to make a comment, because this festival, some of you have been coming for 4 years, has changed you. And again, what I see alive at this festival is how life works. What I've always wanted, too, at this festival is a freaking download. So maybe, David, we can do that. I think the festival needs a download. We should all get together at the end of the festival and go, what the fuck just happened? Like, we need a program that says, what the fuck? Like what the fuck at the Opera House? Like, and then we can all come together and talk about that and how to move that forward. How to move that forward. And here's the radical idea that I hope all of you will take. And again, I want to open this up to questions about the book or whatever. This is an idea that's really important. We are all, Steve, we talked about this the other day. We are all complete and in process at the same time. And I think, so many times I speak to groups like this and they all say, well, we're the choir. I kind of wish we'd stop with that saying, because that means that we got something that they don't have, and that's a separation idea. We're all playing a note. So we're all the choir. So, yeah, feel free. But this idea that we are complete is so important. This is why the mystics know everything is cool. What are you talking about? There are child soldiers and there are population problems. Everything on a soul level is cool. That's why the mystic Julian of Norwich says, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. And how could she say that when there was so much poverty and suffering in her day, and she worked so hard against that? But she knew that on a soul level, some intelligence has got us in its embrace. Call it whatever you want, God, life, the big electron. There is something that we all know and we feel. You can just call it your own heart, right? Where does the kingdom of heaven reside? Right here. So something has us in its embrace, even if we fuck it up. But that knowledge allows you to walk out of here with a freaking shit-eating grin and go take on every issue that you feel compelled to take on. And you don't do it in a downer way. You don't do it in a way of, oh, God. You do it in a let's fucking kick ass, right? Let's get out here and end. Let's get with Invisible Children and let's end this child soldier problem. Let's get with Ben Skinner if he's here and end slavery in our lifetime. Let's get with Dan and create a blue zone wherever we live. And we can do it with joy, and then we become the message. You see, we have to become it. And it is not, hey, you don't have it, and you don't have it, and you don't get it, and you're a Republican, and you're too this. No, we say, this is it. Ooh, I feel it. What are you feeling? Oh, you're feeling different. Awesome. I'm doing an amazing thing if you want to join us. And you become the message and you share it with all that you are. You see? And I've been to so many choir festivals, and I get these guys who talk about love, and then they're dicks afterwards. You know? They come up to me and it's like, we can't talk about love and be dicks. We've got to become it. By the way, I don't even curse in the book, I promise. So, but look, my favorite author is Emerson, and Emerson said, if your truth doesn't have some edge to it, it's not truth. So I like to use some language that pokes us a little bit. So forgive me if there are any kids here, but I love you. And okay, with that said, I don't know how much time we have left. Probably about 25 minutes, right? How long have I been yapping? Okay, 20 minutes left. Questions, comments? Yes, sir. And can we get a microphone real quick? This is Harold, everybody. Living the Operating Manual, gave a kidney to a stranger.
Kind of interested to know how you came about being able to speak at the UN.
Harold, how do we become able to speak at the UN?
Tom's name is out there. Tom gets requests from middle schools, high schools, colleges, Coca-Cola, ESPN, United Nations. And at this point, he's so busy, we try to pick the venues that will get the most ears. That's a good venue.
And by the way, how many saw the movie Baseball in a Time of Cholera? Yeah. The UN may be responsible for the cholera outbreak at Haiti. More than may. Guess what I'm going to say? Okay. Yes. Yes. Here comes the mic.
So you keep circling around this idea about books about how life works.
Yes.
How does life work? And a couple people.
I will tell you how life works. It works perfectly. It works perfectly.
So there's a huge audience here.
Hang on a second. Do you want a follow-up question? Because you looked at me like, life works perfectly, whether we recognize it or not. So if we don't, quote, get inside of how life works, we'll just not survive. Life works perfectly. And again, there's a conversation in the book that says, how can you say life works perfectly? There's all these problems, there's child soldiers. Life is a perfect reflection of who we are and what we care about. It's a perfect reflection. So when we care about the things we care about, when our youth spend, I don't know how long you guys, but the stats are really frightening, how long we spend inside of television screens and not out engaging into the freedoms. We have a perfect reflection of the world we have. We want a lot of shit. We have a world that has a lot of shit. Life works perfectly. How do I explain all the sort of atrocities?
Yeah, LRA, brutal civil wars all across Africa.
Yeah.
All the issues that
We're outside of how life works. Look at Africa right now. We just had this conversation with Invisible Children. We think Africa is this place that's maybe isolated from us. They have problems. We're connected to those problems, right? We as a Western culture rated Africa for a commodity, right? Even the electricity we just talked about that runs these various things. Guess what? Telluride is the first place to have electricity. We just spoke about this. Guess what's needed for electricity? Rubber. Guess what we did? We went and colonized Africa to go get rubber. So we have a perfect world. Life works perfectly. We go and we abuse people. And by we, I mean I am tied to the ancient lineage of that abuse because I'm living in it, right? So it works perfectly. We go abuse and get outside of the operating manual. The operating manual, by the way, is very simple. Everything you see in nature around you is in a state of cooperation that is thriving in the long run. Everything you see around you that is thriving in the long run is in a state of cooperation. Not that competition doesn't exist, it does, and there's value in competition. But when species are thriving in the long run, they're in a state of cooperation. We're outside of that. It's not very cooperative to go to Africa and go, I'm going to kill you, enslave you, get me stuff, and I'm going to have this. It doesn't work that way. Your body would never do it, right? We think about life as one body. This earth is one body. You would never purge and pillage something in your hand or in an organ, right? Because it would hurt you. Well, it's all us. And when we wake up to that, it's all us. Everything is God in a myriad of disguises. You wake up to that, that's how life works. Shit, that was deep. You get one more comment, and then what's going on?
So how do you explain the difference between people, who were born into privilege or born into, comfortable circumstances and the people that were born into very, living in the dumps in India or,
How do I explain that? Good God.
Just in sort of the universal balance.
Well, first of all, what you call privilege, I would not call privilege.
Okay.
So,
Privilege,
how would I explain that? All I know is that everything is freaking perfect. Everything is perfect. So that person born into privilege who gets to wake up to the idea that the privilege that we call privilege is not necessarily really privilege. While I sit on the cushion of advantage, I fall asleep. He gets to wake up to that because there is polarity on the other side of the planet that has a kind of, we all run to Africa because of the smiles on their faces, and we come back and we say, but they have nothing. Oh, they have so much. They have community and family that they know they need because they can't survive because they're not sitting on the cushion of advantage. They actually have to think about how to stay together because that's how they'll survive. And it brings a freaking light to their eye and a joy that the cushion of advantage doesn't get. And yet we each have something to teach each other. It's freaking perfect if we wake up to how life works. The problem, she says, is perspective. That is correct. Perspective, spectacles, the same thing, how we see things. It's exactly right. I never said before, in that first conference, a woman stood up and said, why aren't we talking about consciousness at this festival? Why don't we talk about consciousness, right? Now, I'm not talking about raising the level of consciousness. I don't subscribe to that ideology. I think we have it in us. We don't have to get to some... It's not like human consciousness is growing. It's already here. It was here 2,000 years ago when Jesus was around. It was here 3,000 years before that. They're indigenous people that had a consciousness and a connection and a feeling. We just have to wake up to it. Right? That's why true revolutions are not born in violence. They're not born in anger. They're born in silence. Because who you are, when you walk in nature, you know exactly who you are. You're reminded of who you are. Reminded means to be put back into the mind, and you feel this connection. We're all kin with everything. The scientists know that, right? If everything started as the scientists now believe, from one infinitesimally small point of light or energy, bam, the Big Bang Theory, guess what? You're related to the frickin' chair you're sitting on. You're related to everything that you see and touch. Are you done? I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Hey,
Okay.
Tom, I have a quick, this is actually a nuts and bolts kind of question, because when we leave Mountain Film, I feel like I would love to stay here all year round, do all this activist stuff. But I think the really important part of Mountain Film is to go away and do our work and be activists, in our hometowns. And I really believe in being an everyday activist. So what can we do specifically to help you? I tried to Google your book this morning. I didn't find it online. Maybe I didn't Google the right thing. But how can we all help you? Are you giving the book away? How can we tell our friends? What do you want us to do?
Let me explain what this is. This is totally unique because I'm telling you, I'm infatuated with Mountain Film because I feel the power. This book's not coming out for 6 months. I have a publisher, Hay House. I don't know if some of you have heard of them. Hay House, they do sort of the spiritual authors, Wayne Dyer and Marianne Williamson, etc., Deepak Chopra, etc. And they're releasing this in about 6 months. But you guys, we don't frickin' know. We gave it to you. We gave it to you because you're a part of the family that helped to create this and change us. So, Ben, are you here? Ben, one of my students. Ben just created a website. Ben, what are we doing? Can we get a mic to him real quick? There you go.
You can go, hello. You can go to lifesoperatingmanual.com. It does exist. We also have facebook.com/lifesoperatingmanual, so you can post to that. Once you've read the book, post your comments. We'll have us and Tom can go on there and respond to comments. And lifesoperatingmanual@gmail.com. And if you go to lifesoperatingmanual.com, you can find our Twitter, which is Fear and Truth, and stay in contact with us and read the book and let us know. Yeah, that's basically. Thank you, Ben. That's basically. By the way, what he did in one night, I just literally asked him last night, anticipating your question. I asked Ben, well, what do we do if they want to get in touch with us? And he said he could create something, and he did it in 45 minutes. Could you please thank him for me? But what I'm personally really interested right now is for you to read it. This is again an economic model of how I operate my life. This is a nonprofit. Everything we'll ever make from this book, like I am, will go back, into communities. So. I just want to know what you think. Tell me why I'm freaking nuts. Tell me why it's Pollyanna. I'm interested in your feedback. And also, if you feel similarly and you're going to spread this, holy smokes, what people said about I am is holy smokes. That's been in my heart for so many years. Thank you for expressing what's been in my heart. If this is in your heart and it expresses it, get the word out there. Because all we want to do is spread the word. Other questions? Okay, yes.
Hey, Tom, I'm Susan. Thanks for writing the book. By the way,
it was freaking hard.
I know.
So hard.
I asked that question 35 years ago. I told you later. So you finally got the book written. But I was reminded of, there was a book that I read about 25 years ago called Mutant Message Down Under. And it was written by a woman who went to Australia. Long story short, they view us Westerners, especially the United States, as mutant human beings, and as poor as could be because of our spiritual poverty. They view themselves as rich. We view them as poor. So it's like the woman said, but what about the person born with privilege? Yep. Some of the people in Australia would say that person is poor. So
okay,
anyway,
beautiful.
Thank you for the book.
Okay, I want to make a comment about that because am I still on? Yeah, I am. I have a slightly different perspective, and I agree. I've heard many of the native people when
Was it Wade Davis who brought people to America who wrote their friends or took a message back and said, my goodness, they are so poor, all they have is money. But I see it a little differently. I think that we both have things to share with each other. I think that somehow this intelligence wanted to become more creative. So about 10,000 years ago, agriculture happened. You're going to read this in the book. I go through it very quickly. But agriculture changed everything. 175,000 years of human history. 165,000 years, we're indigenous. We're these indigenous tribes that are in 30 to 150. We know we're connected to each other. We need each other. Life is immediate. There's an appreciation and a unity. We feel it. Not that everything they did we want to emulate, but there was an ideology that was sustainable and inside of how life worked. 10,000 years ago, this technology happens called agriculture. And what does agriculture allow us to do? Exactly what the mystics later come along and say, don't do that too much. Do not store in the barns. Right? Do not worry about tomorrow. Agriculture is all about worrying about tomorrow. I got to get enough food so I don't have to worry about tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day. I got to get enough stuff so I don't have to worry. And that changed everything. But there's good that came out of that. Because look at the colors in this room. Look at the creativity. Look at the art. Look at the expression. The technology, which I find neutral. It's neither good or bad. But when the indigenous idea of love and unity is added to technology, it's very good. 100 million people can get together like an invisible children and wake up and change things. So I believe it's all been a process that we're waking up to. Incredibly good news. I think that there is an organizing intelligence that knows what the F it's doing. And we're all waking up to that now. So we're not bad in this model. We're walking down a road and we went, oh, geez, it's rocky and it's hurting our feet and it's not working. Let's move this way. Oh, how are you? Oh, we can come together. And that's where we're at. And that's very hopeful.
Thank you.
Another question? Over here?
I wanted to address money. You seem to have an economic paradigm that's different, and I'm trained as a lawyer and CEO, and I have to write business plans and
Yes.
have to figure out where money's going to come from.
Yes.
So I'd like to hear, are you in favor of things mostly becoming nonprofits or hybrid models?
What's your name?
Kenlin.
Kenlin,
like Ken a boy's
Kenlin.
name when a girl's name.
Yeah, well, you said you have to write business plans, and you actually don't. But I don't want to say this with any arrogance. No, because what I would like for folks like yourself is to understand that there are principles that business is riding on that don't work. Growth is not good. It's growth. Right? Growth is growth. Love is good. Growth is not good. That's what we subscribe to. A business plan that subscribes to growth as good is outside of the operating manual. But if you subscribe to love and sharing and serving in your business plan and growth happens, that's good. Because the underpinning of that was we are here to serve. Right? What we do in our culture is fucking insane. What we do is we say, elevate the people who have accumulated the most. So I am going to start a coffee shop that is going to take out all mom and pop coffee shops in America. All local flavor is going to be gone. I'm going to create a better bean, take all profits for myself, right? Buy airplanes and basketball teams, and I'm going to be standing on the top of magazines going, can you be like that guy? Because that's how we should be in our society. That's insanity. But all business plans that exist in our current accepted economic model subscribe to that. Go be that and take everything you can. Then you can give back. That's insanity. It's outside of how life works, and we just won't make it. I'll see you on planet Xenon, because that's where we'll start again. Because we're done here. Thank you for that. And even opening up to the idea and having conversations with your fellow. When I got hit with that, I realized this is what happened to me in this frickin' town. This town has got an energy, I tell you. In this town, I realized, yes. In this town, I realized, holy shit, I am outside of life's opera. I'm outside how nature works. Now, I never went to be selfish in show business. You'll read in this book how my salary climbed because it was just accepted that my movies made money, so I'm more valuable. So at Ace Ventura, I make $140,000, which is Directors Guild minimum. Suddenly, that movie made money. My next movie, everybody's saying, you know how valuable you are. I got $1 million or $2 million bucks to make my next movie. Suddenly, that movie made money. Everybody's saying, you know how valuable you are? You need to make more money, so I made $5 million. And then it went up to $30-something million on Bruce Almighty, which I am now imperfectly trying to give back, which is why my small participation in the Valley Floor, because it is small relative to what you did, but my small participation in the Valley Floor is an acknowledgement that I was outside of how life worked. And I don't want to be outside of it anymore. So I need to live. I need to breathe. I need to be able to get on a mountain bike if I want to and go to Telluride if I want. Those things should be embraced. And I encourage you to embrace them and get the stuff that makes you feel alive, but nothing more. And that's how nature works. Okay.
Tom?
I will in 1 minute. Okay, hang on. Let's answer one more question. I'll send you out in 2 minutes. Yes.
So I just wanted to do a quick follow-up with that basic idea of needing to write a business plan. I'm from England, but I've lived here for 25 years, and it just seems to me that in America the biggest problem we've got is that the first law of business is that the owners, or the people who make the company, the first rule that they have to follow is make money for their shareholders.
Right.
And it's right there that it got
Yep.
completely fucked up.
Right. Totally fucked up. I totally agree with you. But let's go one level further. Yeah, that law sucks. Right? You can't even say, wow, if we as a corporation gave something to Invisible Children or gave something to a filmmaker like Lucy. No, we can't do that because we have to maximize profits for our shareholder. That's fucked up because profits would mean, if we could expand the idea of profits to mean a better world, that would be awesome. Because then we could give to Lucy, we could give to Invisible Children. But the problem is actually not with them. The problem is with us. Just stop frickin' supporting those corporations. Stop it. Now, we all do it. We all do it, right? Because we're in a broken world and it's difficult to kind of find your way perfectly out of it. And I'm living still hypocritical behaviors. But you talk about it, you write it, you live it, you wear it with passion and watch those people change. Get on. Like these guys have created a group that is so strong, 100 million potential and more, that can say, no more of that. We're changing that law. And then it changes. But it starts right here. It starts right here. There is not one corporation, this book talks about it, whether one of the poisons of the day is corporations are bad. And there is not one corporation that has any power that we don't give it. There was a woman that came up to me, ran up to me after a talk and said, Tom, I believe in everything you say, but corporations are bad. And I said, well, tell me why, because I see corporations, they get their power from us. Where do corporations get their money? She said, they steal it from us. And I said, I've never had a corporation steal anything from me. I drive up to the Shell gas pump and I give them money. That's my act. And if I change that act like John Francis and others, and I've done a little bit, bicycle, I can do more, that's when it changes. When we wake up to that, corporations will frickin' follow us. Okay. All right, students, I'm going to take one more question. The students are going to get out of here. Go. Wow, my goodness. That was a collective...
I'd like to make a comment about what you said about giving away free videos. I have a friend who's a filmmaker who stopped making lots of big bucks to make a film called Growth Busters. He now has no income, and he just recently, from love, got married. How can he exist if he gives away his excellent film?
Yeah, good question. Dave, how are you existing? Tell us. This is Dave, everybody. Hey, Dave, how are you, brother?
Well, all I can say is that becoming a starving artist brought a lot of joy into my life.
But I do need everybody's help. I could give the film away if I had more people pitching in. I started my own nonprofit, and I go days and weeks without donations. But Tom, you might have better suggestions for me. It's growthbusters.org. And Tom, I've got a copy of the film for you right here.
Well, first of all, Thank you. First of all, I admire you, and I appreciate you for having the courage to do that. And you are already a part of a kind of wealth that may not show up in a paper greenback. And for that, you've sent an energy out that affects me right now, and it's undoubtedly affected others. I think there's got to be a way where we artists can say, I offer this to you, and if you want to help, if something moved you and you want to help to sustain this, we as artists will publish our salaries and show you who we are and how we're living, just like you guys do at Invisible Children. We'll publish all that, and then if more comes, we're going to just grow more love. We're just going to grow more art. So I think there has to be a way that happens. So I appreciate you getting out there ahead of us. Good man. Okay, last question, then we wrap it up.
So where does the money come from then?
What's that?
Where does the money come from?
Okay, first of all, money is simply an illusion. Money is a representation of energy, right? I know, but see, we're so poisoned. Like you already rolled your eyes when I said money's an illusion. It's a representation. If you're on a desert island and you have a Tootsie Roll and a $100 bill, the Tootsie Roll is more valuable, right? It's just a representation. For hundreds of thousands of years, we lived without it. So money is just going to be a reflection of love. So when I love you and maybe more energy or / money is coming to me, please come. We call it bread for a reason, right? We call it bread for a reason. The problem with money is that bread will actually go rotten, and I can only eat so much of it. But if I share my bread, which I am compelled to do because it's going to go rotten, I've already got my fill, have some bread, right? Love will naturally let it flow out. It's not about changing the system. It's not about becoming Marxist or socialist. It's about all of us embracing the ideas that make life work. So where's the money going to come from? Number one, me. Okay? Because everything that I do is just flowing back to you. And I'll publish what I take and what I need. And if you object to that and you find my life imperfect, maybe you won't support it. God bless you. But it's going to come from people who are alive and awake to the principles and want to become truly freaking wealthy. Because the more community you build, the more creativity and love you share, the wealthier you get. I think it's time. So, thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.